Benjamin Franklin entered the world on January 17, 1706, in the bustling colonial city of Boston, Massachusetts. He was born into a large and industrious family, the 15th of 17 children, fathered by Josiah Franklin, a candle maker and soap boiler. His mother, Abiah Folger, was Josiah's second wife, known for her good sense and cheerful disposition. The Franklin household on Milk Street was a lively, crowded place, filled with the sounds of children and the smells of tallow and soap. This environment, though modest, was one where hard work and Puritan values of thrift and diligence were deeply ingrained from a very young age, shaping young Benjamin's outlook on life and his subsequent endeavors in myriad fields of human activity. Josiah Franklin had originally intended for his son Benjamin to enter the clergy. This path was considered a respected one, offering intellectual pursuits. However, the financial burden of such an education for a large family proved too great. Young Benjamin attended Boston Latin School for less than a year. His formal schooling was brief, but his father recognized his son's sharp intellect and passion for learning. This early redirection from a clerical career to a more practical trade did not dampen Benjamin's intellectual curiosity. Instead, it set him on a path of relentless self-education, a journey that would define much of his extraordinary life and multifaceted contributions to society, science, and governance. The Boston of Franklin's youth was a significant port town, a hub of commerce, and a place where new ideas, often carried on ships from England and Europe, circulated with some freedom. This stimulating urban setting provided a backdrop for his formative years. He observed the artisans, merchants, and sailors, learning about the practicalities of life and the workings of the world around him. The proximity to the sea and the constant flow of information likely sparked his early curiosity about a wider world beyond the confines of his immediate community. This early exposure to a dynamic environment undoubtedly played a role in fostering his adaptable and inquisitive nature, preparing him for the diverse roles he would later undertake. His family life, though not wealthy, was stable and provided a foundation of strong moral principles. Josiah Franklin was a man of sound judgment, often sought out by neighbors for advice. He would engage his children in discussions at the dinner table, encouraging them to think critically and articulate their views. This practice of intellectual engagement within the family circle was an informal but potent form of education for Benjamin. It taught him the art of conversation, the importance of reasoned argument, and the value of listening to differing opinions. These skills would prove invaluable in his later careers as a writer, a diplomat, and a statesman, demonstrating how early influences profoundly shaped his character. Despite his brief stint in formal schooling, Benjamin Franklin's appetite for knowledge was insatiable. He became an avid reader at a very young age, devouring any book he could get his hands on. His father's small library included works of theology and practical guides, but Benjamin soon sought more diverse fare. He famously used the little money he could save to purchase books. John Bunyan's was an early favourite, followed by Plutarch's, which he read repeatedly, drawing inspiration from the biographies of great men. This early immersion in literature broadened his horizons and fueled his ambition to make his own mark on the world, demonstrating a proactive approach to learning. Franklin's passion for reading quickly translated into a desire to write. He was particularly impressed by a volume of a popular English periodical known for its witty and insightful essays by Joseph Addison and Richard Steele. He meticulously studied their style, deconstructing their essays and then attempting to rewrite them in his own words. He would jumble the ideas, then try to reconstruct the arguments logically and with clear prose. This self-imposed training regimen was rigorous and highly effective. It helped him develop a clear, concise, and persuasive writing style that would later define his success as a publisher and a public figure, showcasing his disciplined approach to self-improvement. His father, Josiah, played a crucial role in this early development, even if unintentionally at times. While Josiah recognized Benjamin's literary talents, he also critiqued his son's early attempts at poetry, guiding him towards prose as a more practical and impactful form of expression. Prose writing has been of great use to me in the course of my life, Franklin later wrote in his, and was a principal means of my advancement. This reflection underscores the importance he placed on effective communication from his earliest years. The limited access to books in colonial Boston only intensified Franklin's resolve. He would borrow books from local tradesmen and apprentices, sometimes staying up all night to read them before they had to be returned. This dedication highlights his extraordinary thirst for learning and his resourcefulness in overcoming obstacles. He was not merely a passive consumer of information. He actively engaged with the text, questioning ideas and forming his own opinions. This period of intense self-education laid the intellectual groundwork for his future achievements as an inventor, scientist, philosopher, and statesman, proving that true education often extends far beyond classroom walls. At the age of 12, Benjamin was apprenticed to his older brother James, who had recently returned from England with a printing press to establish. Working in the print shop, Benjamin learned the trade from the ground-up setting type, operating the press, and even selling newspapers on the street. This hands-on experience was invaluable, providing him with a practical skill and a deep understanding of the publishing business. However, the relationship between the two brothers was often strained. James could be a harsh master, and Benjamin, with his burgeoning intellect and independent spirit, found the constraints of apprenticeship increasingly chafing under his brother's often overbearing authority. Despite the difficulties, the print shop environment was intellectually stimulating. It was a place where news and opinions were discussed, and Benjamin had access to a wide range of written material. He continued his regimen of reading and writing, honing his skills. He longed to see his own words in print in his brother's newspaper, but he knew James would likely dismiss any submission from his younger apprentice. This led him to devise a clever strategy. He adopted the persona of Silence Dogged, a middle-aged widow with a sharp wit and a penchant for social commentary. This anonymity allowed him to express his views freely without his brother's prejudice. The Silence Dogged essays, 16 in total, were slipped under the door of the printing office at night. They proved to be immensely popular with the readers. Mrs. Dogged offered humorous and insightful critiques on various aspects of colonial society, from the education of women to religious hypocrisy and the follies of youth. James and his intellectual circle praised the anonymous author, unaware that it was young Benjamin. The success of these essays was a tremendous boost to Franklin's confidence. He had found his voice and proven his ability to engage and entertain a public audience, a pivotal moment in his development as a writer and public figure. Eventually, Benjamin confessed his authorship of the Silence Dogged letters. While this revelation initially amused James's friends, it further strained his relationship with his brother, who was displeased by the deception and perhaps envious of Benjamin's talent. The tension between them grew, fueled by James's often arbitrary exercise of authority and Benjamin's increasing desire for independence. "My brother was passionate and had often beaten me," Franklin recalled, indicating the severity of their disagreements. These conflicts, coupled with his ambition, ultimately led Benjamin to make the bold decision to leave his apprenticeship prematurely and seek his fortune elsewhere, a risky move for a young man in that era. In 1723, at the age of 17, Benjamin Franklin made the momentous decision to run away from his apprenticeship in Boston. This act was a significant gamble, as breaking an indenture was illegal and could have serious consequences. He first traveled to New York, but finding no work there as a printer, he continued his journey to Philadelphia. His arrival in Philadelphia is one of the most iconic scenes in American folklore, famously recounted in his. He landed on Market Street Wharf, tired, hungry, and with very little money, munching on one of 3 large puffy rolls he had bought, a rather comical and humble beginning for a man who would later shape the city's destiny. Philadelphia at that time was a more tolerant and rapidly growing city than Boston. It offered greater opportunities for a young, ambitious artisan. Franklin soon found employment with a printer named Samuel Keimer. His skills and diligence quickly made him a valuable employee. It was in Philadelphia that he began to form connections and build a reputation for himself. He lodged with John Reed, where he met his future wife, Deborah Reed. Governor Sir William Keith took an interest in the promising young printer and offered to help him set up his own printing business, promising letters of credit for Franklin to travel to London to purchase equipment. This gubernatorial attention was a significant validation of his potential. Trusting Governor Keith's promises, Franklin sailed to London in 1724, only to discover that the letters of credit never materialized. Stranded in the sprawling English capital without the expected financial backing, he had to rely on his trade once more. He found work at two prominent London printing houses, Palmer's and Watt's, further honing his skills and learning about the latest techniques in the industry. His 18 months in London were a formative experience. He explored the city, indulged his love for books and theatre, and engaged in intellectual discussions, though he also admitted to some youthful indiscretions during this period, which he later reflected upon with regret and a desire for self-correction. Returning to Philadelphia in 1726, Franklin was more worldly, more skilled, and perhaps a little more cynical about grand promises from powerful men. He resumed work for Samuel Keimer, but his ambition was to be his own master. He was no longer the naive boy who had arrived with puffy roles. London had been a crucible. Teaching him valuable lessons about human nature, business, and self-reliance, he was determined to establish himself independently and make his mark. His experiences abroad had broadened his perspective and equipped him with a deeper understanding of the printing trade, preparing him for the next highly successful chapter of his entrepreneurial life in the bustling city of Philadelphia. Section 5. The Power of the Press, Franklin's Publishing Empire. Upon his return to Philadelphia, Benjamin Franklin was eager to establish his own printing business. After a brief period working for others, he partnered with Hugh Meredith in 1728 to set up their own shop. Franklin's diligence, skill, and frugality soon became evident. He worked tirelessly, often late into the night, determined to make the venture a success. "He that hath a trade hath an estate," he would later write in, a maxim he embodied. In 1729, he bought out Meredith's share and became the sole proprietor of a burgeoning printing house, a testament to his business acumen and relentless drive to achieve financial independence and professional standing. A significant milestone in his publishing career was the acquisition of the In 1729. Under Franklin's astute management, that became one of the most prominent and respected newspapers in the American colonies. He was not merely its printer, but also its chief writer and editor. He filled its pages with news, advertisements, and his own witty essays and social commentary, often using humor and satire to engage readers and subtly advocate for civic improvements. The A was known for its lively content and its high-quality printing, reflecting Franklin's innovative approach to journalism and his commitment to excellence in his craft. Perhaps his most famous and profitable publishing venture was first published in 1732 and continued annually for 25 years. Under the pseudonym Richard Saunders, Franklin offered a mix of practical information, weather forecasts, poems, and, most notably, a collection of witty aphorisms and proverbs that promoted virtues like thrift, industry, and prudence. Sayings such as, "A penny saved is a penny earned, and early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise," became ingrained in American culture. The almanac was a phenomenal success, selling thousands of copies each year and making Franklin a household name throughout the colonies. Franklin's success as a printer and publisher was built on his understanding of his audience and his innovative business practices. He established a network of partnerships with other printers throughout the colonies, effectively creating one of the first franchise systems. He also secured lucrative government printing contracts, which provided a steady stream of income. By the time he retired from active involvement in his printing business in 1748, at the relatively young age of 42, he had become a wealthy and influential man. His printing empire had not only secured his financial independence, but had also provided him with a powerful platform to shape public opinion and advocate for the common good. Section 6. Taming the lightning, scientific inquiry, and ingenious inventions. Having achieved financial security through his printing business, Benjamin Franklin turned his boundless curiosity and formidable intellect towards scientific investigation in the late 1740s. He was particularly fascinated by the phenomenon of electricity, a subject that was captivating scientists across Europe at the time. Franklin approached the study of electricity with characteristic pragmatism and ingenuity, conducting a series of groundbreaking experiments. He proposed the then novel idea that electricity was a single fluid, and introduced terms like positive and negative charge battery and conductor, which are still fundamental to the vocabulary of electrical science today, demonstrating his foundational impact. His most famous experiment, conducted in June 1752, involved flying a kite in a thunderstorm to prove that lightning was a form of electrical energy. This daring and potentially dangerous experiment aimed to draw electricity from the storm clouds down the kite string to a key where it could be observed sparking. While the exact details and safety precautions of this experiment are sometimes debated by historians, its conceptual brilliance and successful outcome electrified the scientific world. It confirmed his hypothesis and led directly to one of his most practical inventions, the lightning rod, designed to protect buildings from lightning strikes by safely conducting the electrical charge into the ground. Beyond his work with electricity, Franklin's inventive mind tackled a wide array of everyday problems. He developed the Franklin stove, a metal-lined fireplace that was more efficient at heating rooms and consumed less wood than traditional open fireplaces. He also invented bifocal eyeglasses, which allowed individuals with both nearsightedness and farsightedness to see clearly at different distances without switching spectacles. Other practical contributions included a flexible urinary catheter and studies on ocean currents, particularly the Gulf Stream, which helped to shorten transatlantic voyages. His inventions were rarely patented. He believed that as we enjoy great advantages from the inventions of others, we should be glad of an opportunity to serve others by any invention of ours. Franklin's scientific endeavours earned him international acclaim. He was elected a Fellow of the Royal Society in London in 1756 and received honorary degrees from prestigious universities. His book was translated into multiple languages and became a standard text on the subject. His approach to science was characterized by careful observation, logical deduction, and a focus on practical applications that could improve human life. He was a quintessential figure of the Enlightenment, believing in the power of reason and empirical study to unlock the secrets of nature and advance human progress, leaving an indelible mark on the scientific landscape. Section 7, The Civic Architect, Building a Better Community. Benjamin Franklin's contributions extended far beyond his business and scientific achievements. He was a relentless civic improver, deeply committed to enhancing the quality of life in his adopted city of Philadelphia. In 1727, he founded the Junto, also known as the Leather Apron Club, a discussion group for young tradesmen and artisans. The club aimed at mutual improvement, with members debating questions of morals, politics, and natural philosophy, and developing schemes for public betterment. The Junto became a springboard for many of Franklin's civic initiatives, fostering a spirit of collaboration and public service that would transform Philadelphia into a leading colonial city. One of the Junto's earliest and most significant projects was the establishment of the Library Company of Philadelphia in 1731. Recognizing that access to books was crucial for self-education and public enlightenment, Franklin proposed a subscription library where members could pool their resources to purchase books from England. This was the first lending library in America, and it became a model for similar institutions across the colonies. It provided a vital resource for citizens eager to expand their knowledge, reflecting Franklin's enduring belief in the power of education and the free exchange of ideas as foundational elements for a thriving community and an informed citizenry. Franklin's civic spirit spurred him to organize numerous other public service initiatives. He played a key role in establishing Philadelphia's first volunteer fire department, the Union Fire Company, in 1736, which was far more organized and effective than previous ad hoc efforts. He also championed the paving, cleaning, and lighting of Philadelphia's streets, making the city safer and more sanitary. He was instrumental in founding the Pennsylvania Hospital in 1751, the first public hospital in America to care for the sick and poor. Furthermore, he spearheaded efforts to create a city militia for defense and helped establish the Academy of Philadelphia, which later evolved into the University of Pennsylvania. These civic projects demonstrate Franklin's practical approach to problem-solving and his remarkable ability to mobilize others towards a common goal. He understood that individual well-being was intrinsically linked to the well-being of the community. As he wrote, "The noblest question in the world is, what good may I do in it?" His efforts were not driven by personal gain, but by a genuine desire to improve society. He was a master of persuasion, using his newspaper and his personal influence to garner support for his initiatives. Franklin's dedication to public works fundamentally shaped Philadelphia and set a precedent for civic engagement in America for generations to come. Section 8, Diplomacy and Nation Building, Franklin the Statesman. Benjamin Franklin's transition into full-time public service and statesmanship was a natural progression from his civic leadership in Philadelphia. As his reputation grew, so did his involvement in colonial politics. He was elected to the Pennsylvania Assembly in 1751, where he advocated for colonial interests and often found himself at odds with the proprietary Penn family who governed the colony. His keen understanding of political maneuvering and his ability to articulate a clear vision for colonial unity became increasingly important as tensions with Great Britain mounted. He was a strong proponent of intercolonial cooperation long before the idea of independence gained widespread traction among the colonists. In 1757, the Pennsylvania Assembly sent Franklin to London as its agent to argue against the political power of the Penn family and to seek greater autonomy for the colony. This marked the beginning of his long and distinguished diplomatic career. He spent much of the next 2 decades in England, representing not only Pennsylvania, but also Georgia, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. He witnessed firsthand the growing rift between Britain and its American colonies, tirelessly working to bridge the divide through negotiation and reasoned argument. He loved many aspects of British society, but became increasingly disillusioned with what he saw as British arrogance and misunderstanding of American concerns regarding taxation and representation. When reconciliation efforts failed and the American Revolution began, Franklin, now back in Philadelphia, embraced the cause of independence. He was elected to the Second Continental Congress and was one of 5 members appointed to draft the Declaration of Independence in 1776. Though Thomas Jefferson was the primary author, Franklin made several small but significant revisions, famously suggesting self-evident for sacred and undeniable. Later that year, Congress dispatched him to France on a critical mission to secure French aid for the American war effort. His immense popularity in France, where he was seen as a symbol of Enlightenment wisdom and American rustic virtue, proved invaluable in this monumental diplomatic undertaking. Franklin's diplomatic triumph in Paris was essential to America's victory in the Revolutionary War. He successfully negotiated the Franco-American alliance in 1778, which provided crucial military and financial support. After the war, he was one of the American commissioners who negotiated the Treaty of Paris in 1783, formally ending the conflict and recognizing American independence. Upon his final return to America, the elder statesman participated in the Constitutional Convention of 1787, where, despite his advanced age and declining health, his wisdom and calls for compromise helped to shape the new nation's framework of government. His presence lent legitimacy and a spirit of conciliation to the often contentious proceedings. Section 9. A Life Examined, Virtues, Complexities, and Enduring Legacy. Benjamin Franklin was a man of remarkable virtues, embodying the Enlightenment ideals of reason, industry, and civic humanism. His insatiable curiosity drove him to explore a vast range of subjects from science to philosophy, while his pragmatic ingenuity led to inventions and civic improvements that benefited countless people. He possessed a keen wit and a charming demeanor which made him an effective diplomat and a beloved public figure. His, with its famous list of 13 virtues for achieving moral perfection, including temperance, order, frugality, and humility, has inspired generations to strive for self-improvement. Be in general virtuous, he advised, and you will be happy. This pursuit of virtue was a lifelong project for him. However, Franklin was not without his flaws and complexities. His relationship with his own family was often strained. He was estranged from his loyalist son, William Franklin, the last colonial governor of New Jersey, a breach that caused him considerable pain. His long absences from home while serving abroad meant he spent many years separated from his wife, Deborah, who feared sea voyages and never joined him in Europe. While he championed liberty, he owned enslaved individuals for a period, though his views evolved significantly. and he became president of the Pennsylvania Abolition Society in his later years, actively advocating for the end of slavery and the education of African Americans. This evolution shows his capacity for moral growth. Franklin's personal life also included what he termed errata, youthful mistakes, and perhaps a more flexible approach to marital fidelity than was conventional, particularly during his long stays in London and Paris. These aspects of his character make him a more human and relatable figure, rather than a flawless icon. He was acutely aware of his own imperfections and often wrote about them with a candidness that was unusual for his time. This self-awareness, coupled with his relentless drive for self-betterment, contributed to his enduring appeal. He understood human nature with all its strengths and weaknesses, and this understanding informed his interactions and his philosophies. Benjamin Franklin died on April 17, 1790, at the age of 84. His funeral in Philadelphia was attended by an estimated 20,000 people, a testament to the profound impact he had on his city and his nation. His legacy is immense and multifaceted. He was a pioneering scientist, a successful entrepreneur, a transformative civic leader, a brilliant writer, and a crucial statesman who helped secure American independence and shape its foundational institutions. His inventions continue to be used, his writings are still read and quoted, and his life story remains a powerful example of what an individual with curiosity, diligence, and a commitment to the public good can achieve. His spark continues to illuminate the American experiment.